At Wind River Resort and Casino, we like to celebrate life's little moments. Oh, and the big ones too, because around here, when you're completely in the moment, that's when the magic happens. Come in and find your moment at Wind River Resort and Casino.
Good morning, everyone. I'm meteorologist Mike Krueger. Make sure my microphone is on. I think it is, yes. And we're going to start off with the fires. This is that time of the year where, if we've got to take a look at what's going on with the fire situation. And the good news is we look at this, and there's not a whole lot going on. One of the bigger things I want to mention here is the brush fire in Trinity County. Yesterday, I was mentioning it was 90% contained, and then shortly after I reported that, as of yesterday, 7:55 in the morning, CAL FIRE reported that the fire is at 100% containment, so that's good news. And really, there are no other fires of concern in our area. We still have the Upper Applegate fire. We're not getting a lot of reports on that as of June 22nd. So at 6 p.m. on June 22nd, that's 2 days ago, it was reported at 60% containment. My guess is it's at higher containment at this point, but we're not getting a whole lot of reports coming in from that. So we are seeing some better progress on the Upper Applegate fire for our neighbors in Southern Oregon as well. But otherwise, when you look at Northern California, we are in just really great shape, and we can't complain too much about what's going on with that. We take a look at this, and I just want to remind you that there is a great resource that I've created for you on weathernorcal.com. You go to weathernorcal.com, click on the fire danger section, and you can go to watch duty. You can check the latest forecast. You can check all the latest resources. You can check where all the evacuation watches and orders and warnings if everything's normal. You can learn where your zone is. That's very important that you know where you live and what your zone is. That way, if there ever is a watch or a warning in your area, you will know right away. So be sure you know that. But that's a great place to start right here when it comes to fires is weathernorcal.com, and then clicking on that fire danger section. Here's a look at your Krueger's Quickcast for your Tuesday, June 24th. We got those temperatures in the low 60s for most of us in the valley. Cooler spot in Willows at about 59, but cooler in El Turris. It's actually downright cold there, especially for this time of the year, 37 degrees. 43 in Mount Shasta City. We're low to mid 50s for the coast at the current hour. Here's what we have as you're heading out the door this morning. Should be in the low 70s by 8 o'clock this morning for most of us in the valley, maybe some upper 60s for some of the cooler spots. There you can see for the mountains and the coast, 50s and 60s for those temperatures. Still some of that fog and low clouds along the coast here, but some of it may burn off here later this afternoon. We'll take a close look at that here in just a second here. But look at the winds. They're fairly calm out there this morning. Nothing unusual for this afternoon, just a little bit of that breeze coming in from the south, so nothing to be concerned about there. And then we're calm winds again here for tomorrow morning. So the winds are not a big factor. Humidity obviously still very dry and warm, but mid-90s. That's not bad for the valley. Still some clouds out there this morning, especially over some of the higher elevations. Those will be pretty much moving on out here, though, pretty quickly here. As we take a look at Futurecast, you can see the clouds along the coast there. You see how it just kind of hovers through at least the first half of the day. There may be some breaks in the clouds for some of you, especially in northern Humboldt, Del Norte County, but you can see that fog is going to persist through a good portion of the day. We're also seeing the typical afternoon convection in the mountains. Now, there have been models that have been showing maybe a stray shower, sprinkle for some of the higher elevations, especially in Siskiyou, Modoc County, Lassen County, even Plumas County. So I put the word isolated in the forecast for those areas, but just note that it's going to be few and far between. Don't be surprised if you're kind of running errands throughout the day in Siskiyou, Modoc, or Lassen County, and you run into a stray sprinkle. But overall, it's going to be a dry day. Now, as we take you into tonight, still dry and still looking at that fog out there along the coast, going into even your Wednesday morning. So for your Tuesday, temperatures, low 90s for the south end of the valley, mid 90s to the north. 80s for the north and east eastern mountains. For Trinity County, low 90s, also low 90s inland. And there you can see those temperatures in the 50s and 60s, even for some of those areas along the coast here. All right, so for tonight, we've got temperatures low 60s for the valley, temperatures in the 40s and 50s for the higher elevations, and low 50s for the coast. We're going to go ahead and take a look at our 7-day forecast region by region, starting off with the valley. Still in the 90s through at least Thursday for Redding. We're up to 100 degrees by Friday. But I think across the board in the valley, 100 degrees or higher for the weekend. We are approaching that 105-degree mark by Sunday and possibly even into Monday of next week. For the coast, a little bit warmer for the weekend too, but generally in the low to mid 60s. Inland, you're also seeing those warmer temperatures by the weekend and early next week. And that's also the case for Trinity County as well. Again, put the wording of isolated in there. Don't count on anything, really. In fact, later today or tomorrow, I may be just taking that out altogether. Just one of those things where, like, heads up, you run into a stray sprinkle or light shower, you won't be surprised. Otherwise, you're looking at temperatures mid-80s for Mount Shasta through Friday, upper 80s to mid-90s by the time you get into Sunday and into Monday. Hey, let's take a look at our fire weather forecast sponsored by Garmin's Tractor Service. You can see the fairly calm winds out there that we do have out there this morning. It looks like we are going to be looking at those winds kind of picking up here later this afternoon by 6 p.m. And then we take a look at our forecast going into Wednesday. You see the winds? They are picking back up here by Wednesday afternoon. And then it looks like we are going to see those winds kind of picking up from the south. And by the way, in the south, what you'll notice here, look at that. We can see that we are seeing that fog really just kind of hovering around the area, just kind of sticking around there. That fog is going to remain fairly consistent. Now, we talked about those winds making their way into southern Humboldt County. What we have here is that probably helping to erode some of that fog away later in the day, but overall, we're going to be looking at some fairly high humidity levels out there as well. In fact, let's take a look at that here. Let's get you back to it. I just wanted to show you what it looked like there in Elk Country. So you can see the humidity starting off fairly low out there this morning. Excuse me, yeah, for the valley. But you take a look at the coast, of course, that's what we're looking at here. You've got the high humidity, and a lot of times that's also one of the reasons why you might even see some fog out in that region as well. But as we go to the afternoon, yeah, it dries out significantly for the valley. And then by 3 p.m. Wednesday, we are looking at dry conditions. Although what you'll notice here, the trend is that the humidity levels look to be slowly rising a little bit. Now, this tells us that there may be some improvement. The problem is 20% by no means is a moist atmosphere, still very dry. So when you pick up those winds, even with humidity levels at 20%, that's just going to elevate that fire risk even more. So bottom line is, we look at the humidity, we look at the winds, and we look at the temperature. Even if the humidity is showing signs of improving, that helps a little bit. I mean, 20% is better than 6%, right? But it's still, 20% is still very dry. So that's why we need to be just extra careful here, especially as we go into tomorrow and Thursday, because that's when the winds will start to elevate for some of us in the valley. Let's take a look at some of the cameras out there, looking at North Forbay, seeing those clear skies out there this morning, turning out to be a beautiful start to the day. We've got Highway 99 on Main Street, Chico right there, looking absolutely gorgeous. That's also Neal Road on Highway 99 right there. And traffic is doing what we typically see out there. Let's take a look at Highway 44 at Sundial Bridge Drive. We got the sunny skies out there this morning too. And there you can see, oh, that's what we're doing here. There we go. We're taking a look at Crescent City. Crescent City, there's some of the low clouds. Not necessarily a lot of fog out there this morning, but we are seeing that fog nonetheless. And then we take you out to Soda Ridge, and just a beautiful start to the day there, looking at sunny skies. And Fort Jones, looking down to the valley of Scott Valley. There you can see, I love when you can see the shadows in the valley like that, how it's just so kind of deep into the valley and the shadows coming in from the mountains themselves. But of course, eventually looking at sunny skies out there. Well, what do you say? Oh, by the way, I wanted to, before we get to that, Curtis had made a comment that is probably worth noting, and we should probably talk about. He says, CAL FIRE is doing its prescribed burn on West 36 West, started last night, is going tomorrow morning. Fuel reduction along the highway. So we take a look at that, and where you see the RX means it's a prescribed burn. So there's along Highway 36. You've got actually 2 prescribed burns, it looks like. Actually, it looks like that one, June 23rd, 11, yeah. Incident is now being deactivated. But you have another one, another prescribed burn. Let's get that out of the way here. You got another Highway 36 prescribed burn. You got that here. Basically, personnel briefing before beginning the Highway 36 prescribed burn. Smoke may be visible to residents in the area. Highway 36 West will be under traffic control during the burn. Please use caution if driving in the area to provide safety for all the personnel working around the roadway. So that's coming in from CAL FIRE to Ham and Glenn on Facebook there, what they are doing with that prescribed burn. So thank you, Curtis, for mentioning that. And oh, by the way, we've got a good morning coming in from Stephen Cook. How you doing out there this morning? So glad you could join us this morning. So glad all of you could join us this morning. Well, what do you say we get to our deeper dive forecast? And as you know, Coffee with Krueger is made possible by Wind River Resort and Casino. At Wind River Resort and Casino, enjoy friendly service, a wide variety of specials and promotions, plus all of your favorite slots and table games. Now, before we get to the forecast, I do want to mention a Shred Fraud event. Sometimes I'll say that here. Shred Fraud event. This is on Saturday, June 28th, so still a while to kind of get in your calendars. You know, a lot of times you have mail that you open up that has sensitive information in it. You throw it in that recycling bin, and that sensitive information can be taken by a thief, and they can steal your identity. So, open and shred mail you don't need. Medicare statements, sensitive documents, old bills. It's a free drive-through event, Saturday, June 28th from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. on 1647 Hartnell Avenue. Be sure to do that. That's PSA 2, High Cap, and Medicare Patrol teaming up to help you fight fraud. Okay, here's a look at the current conditions out there right now, and we do have those temperatures in the low 60s for most of us in the valley this morning. You see about 63 degrees for Redding, 68 degrees for Chico, though. 37 Alturas, that's one of the cooler spots out there this morning. 52 degrees in Hoopa and 50 degrees in Willow Creek. Here's a look at your headlines. Highs near normal for the next couple of days at least. Now, by the end of the week, and in particular by the weekend, it's going to be warming back up. And I do have a slight chance for a few mountain showers here and there, but all in all, it's going to be fairly dry. Bigger heat wave for next week. So here's the storm system to our north, another one behind that. Those are just riding to our north. What that's doing is preventing the heat here from really building in. So as a result, yes, it's hot. Yes, we're looking at mid-90s for the valley for the most part, but it could be hotter if these storms weren't here. If these storms are up to our north or staying back to our west, we'd have the heat building in, and as a result, it'd be much hotter. So we have that to be thankful for. All right, so remember I was talking about that potential for maybe a stray shower or two. Bottle's kind of backing off on that now this morning, but you see the afternoon convection in the mountains? You see how it's picking up on a stray shower? This is what I was talking about. It's one of those situations where you're out and about, right? You're running errands in any of these areas here, and you may run into a stray sprinkle or a light shower, right? But overall, it's going to be dry. That fog really persisting along the coast. You may see some breaks in the clouds this afternoon, but it's going to be hard pressed. We go into tomorrow morning, there's that fog along the coast. Tomorrow afternoon, once again, we're seeing the afternoon convection. A little less looks like over the Sierra and northern Sierra as well, but there may be some afternoon clouds there. Afternoon clouds here, maybe even an isolated sprinkle or light shower for Siskiyou, maybe Modoc County, tomorrow afternoon. You see how we're seeing more breaks in the clouds along the coast, so I do expect a better chance for us to see those clouds begin to break up. We go into Thursday morning, there's the fog along the coast, but burns off even more Thursday afternoon. More sunshine for the coast for Thursday afternoon, and more afternoon convection with those afternoon clouds developing on Thursday, but not much in the way of rain. Now we look at the temperatures, not too hot for the next couple of days. Why? Because we have this storm system riding to our north into Canada, right? Then we get another one coming in behind that. This is really kind of helping to support that. That keeps this from building in. But what's going to happen is, you see we're looking at Saturday here. What's going to happen is heat's going to rebuild over the desert southwest. As it builds stronger, it expands into Northern California. So if you look here, we've got a little bit of an undercutting trough right here. What's important to note, though, is we've got a broad ridge of high pressure right here. There's the heat dome here. There's another one to our south. So this one in particular is really starting to build in. What this is going to do, allow our temperatures to climb over 100 degrees as early as this weekend and even going into early next week. Now you see this storm system here, right? What's happening is it's being blocked by this broad ridge of high pressure right here. So the energy is being pushed way up to our north, and it's not having much impact on our weather, and that's why our temperatures are allowed to increase, because this heat, this dome of high pressure, is strong enough to block that cooler air from moving anywhere near us, and we warm up as a result. Now, we do have warmer than normal conditions expected in our temperature outlook here over the next 7 to 10 days, but you can see that's not going to be until the end of the week and this weekend. But you see how we're just kind of hovering between 102 and 105 here, at least for the Reading area, as we go into the weekend and early next week as well. So it is warming up. We've got bigger heat heading our way, but not major heat, right? So we take a look at the lake levels, and as we typically are seeing, minor drops here over a 24-hour period. The historical average. So this looks at history and where our lake levels are at this point, and we are still well over 100% where we typically are for this time of the year with the lake levels, so can't complain about that either, can we? We take a look at the wave heights. They are fairly low here for today, and they're expected to stay fairly low, in fact even drop lower by the time we get into Wednesday. We look at that marine forecast. Northwest winds at 5 to 10 knots. There's your look at your waves. Now, as I mentioned, no small craft advisories, but there will be some patchy, dense fog out there at times, especially in the morning hours. So here is your detailed Trinity County neighborhood forecast. Temperatures mainly in the 90s for the Highway 299 corridor. That's also the case up north on the Highway 3. You're dry for the next 7 days. Temperatures in the 80s south of 299, with the exception of Hayfork with a high of about 93 degrees. Peanut, though, about 83 and 85 degrees in Ruth. All right, for southern Humboldt County with your neighborhood forecast for the North Coast, 76 for Miranda, 81 degrees in Garberville, and Redcrest, about 71 degrees. 60 in Ferndale, 64 degrees in Hydesville, and Rio Dell, about 62 degrees, warming up as we go into the weekend and for next week. 65 for a high today in Blue Lake, 90 for Hoopa and Willow Creek, a high of about 92. Also seeing the warmer weather by the weekend, especially by the second half of the weekend and early next week. There's a look at Trinidad at about 65 degrees. Up north, 74 degrees. Out in Gas Key, 67 for Smith River. Klamath about 60 today, and Oric topping out at 61 degrees. Here's your Siskiyou County neighborhood forecast. Low to mid 90s for Highway 96 as we take into the I-5 corridor, about 90, give or take. There's that isolated sprinkle or a light shower today and tomorrow, just sprinkled here and there for parts of Siskiyou County, including Scott Valley with a high of 89 to get today in Greenview, 87 degrees in Callahan. Central and eastern Siskiyou County, 87 for Weed. There is a look at McDowell at 85 and Tennant about 82 degrees. For Modoc County, about 83 degrees in Fort Bidwell. 86 for Alturas, and again, isolated, mainly dry, but a stray sprinkle here and there. For the Eastern Mountains, there you can see for Bernie, I think you'll be dry all day. 83 degrees for Bernie, 81 degrees for Hat Creek, and 88 degrees for Paynes Creek. We take it to Lake Elmonor and Lassen Park. I put the isolated word in there as well. Otherwise, dry, just a stray sprinkle here and there, but most of us will be dry through a good portion of the day, including areas that say the word isolated. There you can see Paradise, a high of 85, 87 for Susanville, and then temperatures warming up as we go into the weekend and early next week. There's a look at your forecast for the south end of the valley. So we're at 95 for Los Molinos, but you head to the south, Gridley, you're sitting at about 91 for your daytime high. And your 7-day forecast for Chico, I mean, it's creeping back up slowly. We're back in the mid-90s by Thursday, upper 90s Friday, and right around 100 degrees for Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. Let's take you up to the north, 96 for the city of Shasta Lake, Reading, Anderson, Palo Cedro, 95 in Cottonwood, and 91 for both Whiskeytown and Lakehead. So let's take a look at your 7-day forecast for Reading. Temperatures in the mid-90s for today and tomorrow. There's the triple digits as early as Friday, and then we're over 100 degrees. We're up to about 105 degrees by Sunday. Oh man, it is getting hotter out there, but you know, that's that time of the year where we typically see that kind of heat moving on in. So get out there, enjoy this more mild weather, if you will, the next couple of days, because we do have some bigger heat that will be heading our way and it definitely is going to be something you will notice. Hopefully the winds don't pick up too much. The good news is we don't have much in the way of thunderstorm activity in the mountains to expect, so we don't have to worry about lightning sparked fires here anytime soon at this point either. So things are looking good. Still seeing some good mornings out there from some of you this morning, so thank you for checking in and chiming in this morning. Good morning to you all. Hope you have yourselves a great day. We're going to go ahead and wrap things up here with a couple of great photos and some images coming in across Northern California. Enjoy these while we wrap things up. Have yourselves a great day, and we will see you tomorrow morning on Coffee with Krueger.